Democratic Representative LaMonica McIver has been charged with assault over a clash with federal officers outside an ICE detention center. Prosecutors allege McIver slammed her forearms into immigration officers during the scuffle. The incident began when the New Jersey representative toured an ICE center in Newark with Democratic Representatives Bonnie Watson Coleman and Robert Menendez Jr. While exiting the facility, a scuffle broke out with ICE agents who were attempting to block protesters from entering the gates. McIver has declined to accept an offer for a plea deal and denies any wrongdoing. Joining me with more is the Hill's courts and legal reporter Zach Schoenfeld. Zach, so you were able to look over the charging documents. What exactly is McIver accused of?
Hey, Drew, these charging documents now provide us the most detailed picture yet as to what McIver is being accused of. She is being charged with 2 counts, both the same charge, and that is assaulting a federal employee while they are performing their official duties. So we're talking about an ICE agent and then a second agent who works in the Department of Homeland Security. The criminal complaint essentially lays out what you're seeing in the video footage right now, saying that when officials tried to arrest the Newark mayor that day, that the Congresswoman attempted to create a human shield around him to protect him. The complaint goes on to say that when she was doing that, that at one point she slammed her forearms into one of the agents. So it's that alleged physical contact that she made with the agents that is the basis for this assault charge.
Now, as I mentioned, there were several other officials there. Why was it that McIver is being singled out here?
Yeah, this announcement was interesting because the U.S. interim attorney for New Jersey, Alina Habba, who of course previously worked in Trump's White House and before that was one of his personal attorneys in some of his civil cases, she said that her office had attempted to reach a resolution with the Congresswoman that wouldn't result in her office bringing charges. Now, Habba didn't elaborate on exactly what those options were, but we do know from a CNN interview that McIver has done, she said that the office was forcing her to admit to things that she didn't believe she had done. So it seems that there was some requirement for her to admit wrongdoing, issue an apology, things along those lines. But the Congresswoman instead vowing to fight these charges and allowing them to be brought against her. Now, the announcement was also interesting because at the same time that Habba's office was bringing these new charges against the Congresswoman, her office announced that they were dropping the charge that had been levied against the Newark mayor who was arrested that day. Prosecutors had charged him with a misdemeanor trespassing charge. Habba's announcement said that they are passing on that charge for the sake of moving on, but they said that the conduct that the Congresswoman did cannot be overlooked.
How rare is it for a sitting member of Congress to be facing a federal criminal complaint?
You know, it's not something we see every day, but it's by far from unprecedented. Just look at the last few years for a few examples. We had Senator Bob Menendez, the Democrat from New Jersey, former chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He had been convicted by a jury of corruption charges. You had Representative George Santos, the Republican from New York, who had made up a lot about his background. He had pleaded guilty to fraud charges. He's set to serve a prison sentence here very soon. And then there's also still a pending criminal case against Congressman Henry Cuellar, a Democrat from Texas, on bribery charges. That case is yet to go to trial. It's still remaining in pretrial motion. So, this isn't the first time that by any means that we've seen a member of Congress be charged, but it certainly is a sharp escalation here. It's the first sitting lawmaker to be charged by the Trump administration since the president took office back in January. And of course, the actual facts of this case are a bit different than some of those other bribery and corruption charges that we so often see when members of Congress are charged with a crime.
Zach, it's interesting. There was some reporting over the weekend in the Washington Post that the DOJ was considering steps to make it easier for U.S. attorneys to charge public officials. Do we know if that played into this case?
We don't know for sure. There's been no public indication in any of the court documents or any statements from officials saying that that step was removed for this. But the reporting from the Washington Post and other outlets in the days leading up to this charge being brought is certainly curious. Typically what had been the rule is that if a U.S. attorney's office somewhere in the country wanted to bring a case against a member of Congress, they had to go through what's known as the public integrity section, a part of the Justice Department, and essentially added an extra check before prosecutors made that big step of actually bringing some of these more sensitive cases. But even if that step didn't occur in this case, it's unclear if it would have resulted any differently. Alina Habba's announcement certainly indicated that the Trump administration was pretty intent on bringing these charges, And as we've seen in the first few months of the Trump administration, the message from the top Justice Department officials has been to Justice Department attorneys, either get with the program or get out. We've seen the Justice Department fire various attorneys, or even some attorneys resigning on their own accord when they don't want to take certain actions that the administration wants. So it's unclear, even if that check was in place, if the result would have been any different here.
All right, Zach, thanks so much. Excellent insight. As always, if you want to follow Zach's reporting, you can go over to thehill.com and subscribe to his newsletter. It's called The Gavel. Zach, thanks so much.
Thanks, Drew.